Hello. This actually works. Thanks again for joining us this evening for this showing of All the President's Men. As Professor Crawford said, we are students in the Fleishaker Greene Scholars Program program, this semester focusing on the relationship between the White House and the press. My name is Helen Gibson. For this class, I'm producing a podcast called the White House and the Press podcast that explores the relationship between these two institutions. Here with me for this short question and answer session is Professor Crawford and Shelby Bruce and Hunter Frint. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves and tell everyone a little bit about what you're doing this semester?
Sure. My name is Shelby Bruce. I'm a senior, and I am specifically researching the Watergate scandal and the press relations.
And my name is Hunter Frint. I'm a senior as well. I am researching leaks, so flow and the control of information from the White House to the public through the press.
Now, All the President's Men focuses on two reporters who were primarily responsible for reporting and exposing the Watergate scandal. And this is a topic that really relates to both of your projects. So we have some questions to kind of get us started and prepared for the movie. Shelby, to start us off, can you tell us what the Watergate scandal was?
The Watergate scandal was a scandal within Nixon's administration when 5 burglars broke into the Democratic National Committee and the Watergate complex in D.C. And this happened before Nixon's re-election in that November.
And what was the role of journalists in the Watergate scandal?
The role of journalists was huge within this scandal specifically. 2 reporters who worked for the Washington Post, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, ended up exposing Nixon and his administration.
And Hunter, your research, as you said, has to do with leaks of information from the executive branch. Help us understand, what is a leak?
So a leak is pretty self-explanatory. It's a flow of classified or secret information. And in reference to what we're talking about and what I'm researching, it's information from the U.S. government to the people via news outlets.
And how do journalists use leaks in their reporting? Why would a journalist look into a leak?
So leaks are usually a good source of primary information. Those are the scoops that only that news organization has. And that information that comes from leaks often serves as a reminder of the watchdog role that the journalists have over the government. The Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics states that journalists must recognize a special obligation to serve as a watchdog over public affairs in the government. And so it kind of opens the door for events that they believe the public has the right to know.
Right. I think that's all that we need to know before the movie. We'll have another short Q&A, like Professor Crawford said, after the movie, and then open it up to you all, the audience, for any questions that you may have. So, thank you. Well, obviously this movie is a little dated. It was released in 1976, which was just a few years after the scandal took place. And we know more now about the scandal than we did then, particularly the identity of who Deep Throat was. So, Shelby, who was Deep Throat?
Deep Throat was Mark Felt. He worked for the FBI, and he essentially was working with Woodward and Bernstein to uncover the investigation, and he agreed to do so as long as he was granted anonymity. So he pretty much helped them through the entire process.
And when and why did he decide to finally make himself known?
He was granted anonymity for 33 years, and it wasn't until 2005 when he finally came forward and said that he was the source that was helping Woodward and Bernstein through their investigative reporting.
So, Hunter, why would a journalist protect their sources like this?
Well, in cases such as Watergate or the Pentagon Papers, which was another leak that took place under the Nixon administration, sources are protected because it's a journalist's job to protect the identity of sources that they promise anonymity to.
And looking at how far we've come and where we are today, what was the legacy, you would say, Shelby, of the Watergate scandal?
I would say that it changed the press and president relationship, and that it increased investigative reporting, especially the techniques that Woodward and Bernstein used to uncover Watergate, and they used those a lot more afterwards in covering politics in the presidencies.